Hey, so today we're going to talk about 3 specific ways that you can negotiate a better commercial lease option for you and for your new business, whether you're a business owner and you're expanding another location, or if you're even an agent trying to help out a client of yours, and how do we really structure what the landlord's requirements and make a win-win deal for both parties. So the first thing we always start with when we're talking to a client and we want to help them structure a nice lease, even if I'm representing the landlord side, the landlord's always going to be concerned with the total value of what the lease is. That's really what they're worried about. They're worried about how long is that lease term and what's their cash flow position going to be when that tenant comes in. So that's why you'll often see landlords far most interested in the term, meaning the length of the lease. Often new businesses, when they're wanting to expand, they're looking for 1-year or 3-year leases. Most landlords are not really interested in those. They're interested in a minimum of a 5. Why? That gives them a stronger cash flow position. So when we're working with the client, the first thing is I verify with the client to make sure and go, hey, listen, you might be concerned about your new business expansion for the next 3 years, but if we go ahead and do a 5-year lease instead of a 3, first off, our options open up in terms of where we can lease, but we can negotiate better terms on that first year to 2 while you're getting revenue up and running. Which leads me to my second point that we really focus in on is we focus in on base rent. Base rent is separate than would be like triple nets or anything like that. So for example, on a base rent, you might have a landlord that says, hey, this space is going for $30 a square foot. So what we would do if we're structuring a lease and we're extending the time frame out, that they might want $30 a foot, well, we might structure the first initial 2 years to be at maybe $27 a foot. And then we increase each year to 28 to 28.50 to 29 to 30. So really by halfway point in the lease, we're finally meeting the landlord where they went, and now we're catching up. The reason why we like to do it this way is it gives the tenant time to generate revenue and get their business going and reducing their overall cost of the lease on a monthly basis to them. And as their revenue increases, because they're going to get to work and expand and grow, the cost of the rent goes up, and that's when the landlord wins. So we create a win-win for both parties just by focusing and using that base rent. The third thing that we use, so it's term, then base rent, and the third thing we use is what we call rent abatement and TI. Rent abatement, again, when we extend that term out, we can usually go to a landlord, and the landlord will often offer the first few months of rent and of base rent free, so that way the tenant can move in and use their capital to do things like finishing out the space and buying furniture and really customizing and doing some additional customized features for that space. So that way they're reinvesting their capital back into their business. It's the same thing with what we call TI, which is tenant improvement. We'll get the landlord to basically cover the cost of, putting up walls and office spaces and carving out the conference room space and putting in flooring or, maybe changing drop ceilings and lighting in the building. The landlord will often pay for that. Now remember, that will ultimately, the cost of that will get baked into the cost of the lease long-term. But what it does do is it allows the tenant and the business owner to move in, to use what capital resources they have to invest in the business to go generate revenue, and it gives us a better, stronger deal. So for those of you, if you're looking at expanding to a second location and you're like, I'm really looking at maybe a 3-year lease, for example, we would really encourage you, take a look at maybe going to a 5, maybe even a 7, because there's a lot more options available to you where landlords are going to be far more interested in working with you and helping you invest into your expansion and locations better. If you feel like this has helped you or you have any further questions, let us know, because we want to be a part of your portfolio.